Hi there. So on Sunday was my 31st anniversary as spiritual director here at Center for Spiritual Living, Morristown. And just skipping one Sunday, and I forgot to turn the volume on. And I want to redo this because it's important to me. And I thought it was important to our spiritual community because every year on my anniversary, I share a topic called What I've Learned This Year. So I go through my journals and I reflect on the year and I share that. So I love to share it again. And so now it's a little different because I'm sitting in an empty room. Sun is shining. It's a beautiful New Jersey day. But I feel the presence of all who were here on Sunday. It was a lovely day. And the presence of anyone and everyone that's ever been a part of this community, because it's not just my 31st anniversary, it is our 31st birthday. It's really a celebration for all of us in being together as a community and being together as a representation of our beautiful teaching and our longevity. So we did two things on Sunday. We had, of course, a traditional celebration, and this will be my talk that I'm sharing today. But we also had Susan Neat, who's a licensed practitioner from Center for Spiritual Living, Princeton, do an impromptu interview with questions I had no idea about. So I asked her to send me the questions. They've changed a little bit because she was very spontaneous, but I'm going to do a separate recording of that. And then if anybody has any questions, just ask. I'm pretty much an open book. So I was thinking about the time period that I've been here, which is 31 years. And it's kind of almost half my life. I'm 66. And so I was doing the whole percentage thing because I was curious, and I found out that it's 46.969697% of my life. I'll round it off. 47% of my life I've been here as a spiritual director, and it's been a very wonderful, beautiful, amazing time, not without its challenges, of course, but it's just been such a blessing. It's obviously why I'm still here. So one of the things that I realized 2023 has been about is grief. And sometimes in our community, in Centers for Spiritual Living and Science of Mind, we don't like to talk about grief, right? And that's because we live in a very grief-phobic culture. And when a culture is grief-phobic, the way that shows up is violence, war, difficulties in politics, structures breaking down. And so what we're seeing in the world now with economic structures, healthcare structures, political structures breaking down, it's part of being not present with the truth of our very being, but also not working through some of the challenges that we have. So for me, it's been a year of grief because of the status of the world, because of the wars that are happening. And in Science of Mind, we say, as within, so without. So I've had to look inside and see what are the wars going on inside of me that I now see reflected in the world outside. And I think that's true for all of us. So we want to end the war inside, end the war that we have in our small worlds of relationships. And I believe that then spills over into the world. So the world becomes a reflection of what is our work to do. And so for me, it was a year of doing grief work and noticing loss. And that's the one thing we all have in common, don't we? I don't know any human being that has not experienced loss. And so if we know that and we honor that and we talk about that, then healing can happen. And so I feel the loss of humanity's disconnect from the sacred, the loss of what we've done to our planet, which we now call ecocide, the loss of human beings because of violence, the new diseases that have popped up. We all know how the world and life has completely changed since COVID. And so we have that in common. And I know for sure now that I either resist loss and grief or I befriend it. And if there's anything that has happened for me in 2023, is that I have befriended it. I have befriended grief, no matter what it's about. And I have befriended loss as a natural part of life, as the one thing I have in common with every other human being on the planet. And what I have found is what's on the other side. When we allow ourselves to feel loss and we grieve loss, what we find on the other side is joy and peace and happiness and blessedness. So yes, it's been a year of grief, but it's also been, because I've moved through it and I've really worked with it and sat in it and embraced it and befriended it, I have found a level of joy and blessedness like never before. And so I'm finding that I'm now living a life that has very little drama and trauma and challenges and problems, which means that I feel more free than I ever have in my life. And that kind of freedom is precious and so delicious. It has led me to this place of feeling immensely grateful. I feel more grateful than ever. If I go through all my journals, which I do at a time like this when I do this talk, I think the word gratitude shows up the most. I have so much to be grateful for. I feel so much gratitude. And that, of course, spills over. I found one of my little poems in one of my journals, and it went like this: all this darkness, because it was a particular day where I felt so much darkness. All this darkness, where is the light? It isn't out there, it's in my own spirit. Sorry, it's in my own sight, my inner sight, my own light. Let me repeat that. All this darkness, where is the light? It isn't out there. It is in my own sight, my inner sight, my inner light. And that is so true of all of us. It's what I love about the Science of Mind teaching. We know what to do. We know where to go. We know to listen and be still and call upon that infinite presence already within us that is all fulfilling and all giving. So every time we feel like there isn't enough or something is missing, that's just a belief or an experience. But we know where to go to heal that, to fill up on that, to find the truth out about that. So I've had 3 very specific teachers this year, very specific guides. And one of them is Emma Curtis Hopkins, because I've been teaching the class all year with a weekly class, and today is the last day, our last class. And I'm so excited about that because I've noticed that every student that has stuck with it really has shifted and transformed and healed in ways that they didn't experience a year ago. And so Emma has been my guide and my teacher from a place of the absoluteness of the presence and the power of spirit within as being all there is. And then my second guide has been Kathleen Dowling Singh. I was studying her book when I was going through a health challenge and being treated for cancer, and it was so helpful. She wrote The Grace of Dying, The Grace of Living, The Grace of Aging, which is a really great one, and I want to teach a class on it or do a book study on it. And then I discovered one I didn't know she wrote called Unbinding. Unbinding, I'm reading now. And it's so rich. It has a Buddhist foundation, but it's very trans-spiritual and religious. It just brings these truth wisdoms to life in a way that are very real and very personal and very livable. And then my third teacher has been Michael Stillwater, who wrote The Untethered Soul. And we are now doing the second cycle of a book discussion on Sundays. And his work is so beautiful because it brings it back to the basic principles of being conscious, being present, breathing, letting go, relaxing, just allowing. And that is something that takes us to a place where we can experience a trauma-free life. And then, of course, one of my favorites, Science of Mind magazine. I love that it's double now, 2 months at a time. I recommend everybody has this as their morning study. My copy is very beat up. This is the ones we sell here and has lots of tags and lots of notes everywhere. And so this is November, December. And I just love the treasures in there so much. But then there is, of course, our journal that we did this year, Living Out Loud. And on the first page in December, which is such a beautiful page, there's a quote by James Hollis, and it says, "The goal of individuation is wholeness, as much as we can accomplish, not the triumph of the ego." The goal of individuation is wholeness, as much as we can accomplish, not the triumph of the ego. And so we know in our teaching that wholeness is inherent. So when we experience any sense of brokenness, it's not a punishment, it's just the invitation to remember our inherent wholeness and how to live it. So in a way, the war that's going on within is that ego war, that sense of duality, because that's how the mind with a small m functions, right? It doesn't understand wholeness because that is of spirit, of soul, of our true nature. That war is whole, broken, whole, broken. Yes, I'm whole, perfect and complete, but I experience brokenness here. So instead of fighting it and resisting it, we simply befriend it. And we realize that it's there to show us the way, to remind us of who and what we really are, to claim the very truth of our being. I love this quote by Einstein where he says, "The intuitive mind is a sacred gift. The intuitive mind is a sacred gift. And the rational mind is a faithful servant." The rational mind is a faithful servant. We have created a world that honors the servant but has forgotten the gift. We have created a world that honors the servant but has forgotten the gift. And so I always say that life is about forgetting, remembering, and it's that dance between the lower self and the higher self, or the self with a small s and the capital S. But it's all for us. It's for our evolution. So we can ask ourselves, what am I serving? My ego self, my lower self, my mind with a small m, or my true self, capital T, capital S, my higher self, my essential self, my spirit, my soul? And of course, we want to always be practicing and practicing and practicing so that we find ourselves moving into serving our higher self, our true self, the true gift, the sacredness of our being. And so we get to be conscious and understand the difference and truly embrace that there's a part of our mind that's a bit divided. And how can I unify that? How can I unify there? Which then becomes my gift of healing, not just to myself and those around me, but the world. And so all that is about freedom, 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 freedom. Experiencing greater freedom. It has allowed me to arrive at a place of deciding that it's time for me to enter my last year as spiritual director here, Some of you have heard me make the announcement. Some of you have read it in an email. And now it's out there, right? So we're going to be working together on what's our highest and best next for this particular spiritual community. But the clarity has allowed me to feel the freedom of it being easy and grace-filled and very clear. And so it's all about growth, isn't it? We are always unfurling, unfolding, blossoming. I look for that when I work with people. Are they really embodying this beautiful teaching that is such a powerful gift and it works? Like they say in CSL Dallas, this shit works. It works, and I can see those who just kind of play with it, see it as entertainment, it's a nice way to connect, and that's fine. And those who really dive in deep and do the work and reap the harvest. It's available to all of us, and I have no judgment about it because everybody is in their own place at their own pace, and it's all good, right? And so we're not looking for perfection, none of us. I'm not either. I'm not perfect, far from it. And so I do notice that I've crossed a boundary. I've opened myself. I've expanded. I see life differently. I feel different. I feel that deeper connection, that life is vibrant with blessings and gifts and freedom and joy and peace and harmony, even in the midst of grief. And so that clarity is with practice. When we practice, whether it's meditation, spiritual mind treatment, take classes, work with a licensed practitioner, do a workshop, do whatever it is that we do, as long as we practice and take time every day for cultivating and remembering and experiencing that sacred connection with Spirit, it becomes our foundation. And it shifts everything, because as within, so without. And so I feel like I have been a rigorous practitioner of this teaching for at least 40 years. And so I notice the harvest and the reaping, and I'm so grateful, and I feel deeply worthy. And so darkness then is not something to fight or to judge or to push away or to turn away from, but to befriend, because it holds the possibility of light. It holds the seed of light. And then with that comes this experience of surrendering and letting go, just being, feeling, noticing, allowing, letting go. When I forgot to turn the volume on Sunday, it took me a solid day to just let go of that and not be frustrated and upset. And looking back, I noticed that it kind of closed my heart, and I didn't get to fully experience, after our celebration, the joy that was in the room, the joy that was part of the celebration. So I took it back and owned it once again. And so I want to close with a quote, but before that, I just want to share my gratitude to anyone and everyone that's ever been part of this 31-year journey, because I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for all those. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for our beautiful people at Center for Spiritual Living, Morristown, in our entire history, which is even before me. And so I'm just filled with gratitude and don't even know how to put it into words, because in a way it has no words. But I want to close with this beautiful quote by Nisargadatta, who wrote I Am That, which is a beautiful book. He was an Indian guru who lived from 1897 to 1981. And I'll read it twice. Do understand that you are destined for enlightenment. Cooperate with your destiny. Don't go against it. Don't thwart it. Allow it to fulfill itself. All you have to do is to give attention to the obstacles created by the foolish mind. Again, do understand that you are destined for enlightenment. I love that. We're destined for enlightenment. It's really just remembering the truth of our very being, right? Again, do understand that you are destined for enlightenment. Cooperate with your destiny. Don't go against it. Don't thwart it. Allow it to fulfill itself. All you have to do is to give attention to the obstacles created by the foolish mind. And so it is. Thank you so much for being here, for being there, for being you.